On the surface, weddings are supposed to be moments of joy, of unity, of families coming together to celebrate love. But when it came to Lydia Plath's wedding, the picture-perfect image slipped almost immediately, and what should have been a moment of peace revealed the cracks that have been widening inside the Plath family for years. The music, the dress, the vows, those were all there. But so was the silence, the missing faces, and the choice that left fans everywhere asking, why was Mariah nowhere to be seen? And why did Lydia make the decision that turned her own wedding into the next big Plath family controversy? This wasn't just another wedding episode. It was a reminder of how deeply divided the Plath family has become, and how reality TV doesn't just capture those fractures, it magnifies them. Lydia's whirlwind romance with Zach, the whirlwind planning, and the quiet but glaring choice of Amber as her maid of honor instead of her older sister Mariah, it all combined into a story that left people stunned. The question lingers. Was this a show of loyalty, or was it a signal that the rift with Mariah has grown too wide to mend? Hi friends, my name is Sophie, and welcome back to Reality Scandals Daily. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our deep reality TV breakdowns, and please jump into the comments. I really want to know how you felt watching Lydia's big day play out, and especially how you read into the absence of Mariah. Was it a simple personal decision or a statement about just how fractured this family really is? Because today we're going to walk through exactly what happened leading up to Lydia's wedding, what the show Welcome to Plathville captured, and why this one decision, the maid of honor choice, hit fans so hard. The Plath family has been under the microscope for years, with Kim and Barry's strict parenting sequences aping everything we've seen from their 9 children. But this wedding gave us another chapter, one where faith, tradition, rebellion, and the scars of growing up on camera all collided in front of us. And if you thought Lydia's wedding would be a moment of healing, what happened tells us the opposite. This wasn't just about flowers and rings. It was about family, absence, and the choices that speak louder than words. When it comes to love stories, Lydia Plath's unfolded with the kind of swiftness that almost feels like it belonged in another era. She met Zach, and within months, their relationship went from quiet beginnings to a full-fledged engagement. 6 months after their first date, Lydia was walking down the aisle, radiant in white, about to marry a man she'd barely had time to know by conventional standards. For most couples today, a year or two of dating, sometimes even longer, is considered the norm before marriage. But Lydia and Zach's story challenged that expectation at every turn. The detail that stunned many fans was their decision to save their very first kiss for the altar. In a world where casual dating, physical intimacy, and long engagements are almost expected, Lydia and Zach's restraint felt almost radical. It wasn't just about tradition, it was about faith. Both of them openly shared that their choices were grounded in their Christian values. To Lydia, this wasn't rushing. It was obedience to what she believed God was calling her to do. For her, faith was the foundation strong enough to replace the years of getting to know each other that most couples lean on. Fans reacted with a mix of awe and skepticism. Some saw it as beautiful, a pure, faith-centered love story that felt refreshing in a culture of quick breakups and casual flings. Others, however, worried that Lydia was moving too fast, that her whirlwind romance mirrored the strict upbringing she'd never fully had the chance to question. And when that first kiss finally happened, captured for the world to see, it wasn't just a romantic moment. It was a statement. Lydia was the daughter who stayed true to the values she was raised on, even when her siblings drifted in other directions. That's part of why Lydia's story has always stood out on Welcome to Plathville. While Mariah explored independence, music, and rebellion, and Ethan fought for his marriage with Olivia outside the family's rules, Lydia carved out a different identity. She became the obedient, steady one, the child who prayed, who stayed, who leaned into the structure her parents built. Her whirlwind marriage to Zach only cemented that image. To her supporters, Lydia embodies faithfulness. To her critics, she embodies naivety. But either way, her wedding marked her most defining chapter yet, proving she was willing to stake her future on the values that had shaped her since childhood. When the details of Lydia's wedding first came to light, it wasn't just the speed of her courtship or the kiss at the altar that had fans buzzing, it was the lineup of her bridal party. And at the very center of that conversation stood one choice. Amber, not Mariah, was Lydia's maid of honor. To an outsider, it might look like a sweet, simple decision. But for anyone who's followed Welcome to Plathville, that moment carried far more weight than the dresses or flowers. It was symbolic, and it said everything about where Lydia stands in the quiet tug-of-war between her siblings. Amber, one of the younger Plath sisters, has often been portrayed as the quiet, faithful daughter, still very much shaped by the traditions of Kim and Barry's strict household. Choosing her as maid of honor reflected continuity, Lydia aligning herself with the family's traditional values, staying loyal to the siblings who haven't rebelled against the upbringing they were given. In many ways, Amber represents the safe choice, the daughter who still embodies the Plath ideals of obedience, modest, and faith. But the absence of Mariah in that role spoke just as loudly. Mariah, with her music, her bold fashion, her defiance of family rules, and her long journey of self-discovery, has always represented rebellion, both the pain and freedom of breaking away. To fans, leaving her out as maid of honor wasn't just a scheduling or personality mismatch. It felt like a public declaration. Lydia is not standing beside the sister who chose independence, but instead, the one who still represents the family's roots. Reactions online were immediate and divided. Some fans applauded Lydia for choosing the sister who most closely shared her values. Others saw it as a devastating snub, a signal that the rift with Mariah had grown too wide to ignore. For a family that spent years on television preaching about unity, even while unraveling behind closed doors, this choice spoke volumes. And in that one decision, the emotional weight of the sisters drifting apart was put on display for the world. Weddings are supposed to bring families closer, but in this case, the maid of honor choice revealed just how far apart Lydia and Mariah have become. For many viewers, it turned a day meant to celebrate love into a mirror reflecting the deep fractures in the Plath family itself. Mariah Plath's absence from Lydia's wedding wasn't just a missing seat in the pews. It was the culmination of years of struggle, distance, and painful choices that have defined her journey on Welcome to Plathville. To understand why she wasn't standing beside her sister, you have to look at the road she's been walking, a road that has taken her far from Cairo, Georgia, and into a life shaped as much by rebellion as it is by self-discovery. In recent seasons, viewers watched Mariah pack up her things and head to Montana, seeking both space and healing. That move wasn't random. It was her way of retreating from the cameras, the constant scrutiny, and the weight of being a Plath in the spotlight. She's been open about her struggles with heartbreak, with identity, and with the burden of charting a course that breaks away from everything her parents instilled in her. For fans, Montana became symbolic. It was the place Mariah could breathe, away from the drama, away from the expectations, away from the carefully controlled image of perfection. Over the seasons, Mariah has carried some of the heaviest storylines. Her romances, full of passion but marked by pain, played out under the watchful eyes of not just her family, but millions of viewers. Her fashion choices, her music, her openness about being different from her siblings, these became both her armor and her rebellion. To some fans, she became the most relatable Plath, the one willing to say out loud that strict rules and rigid traditions had left scars. To others, she became the family's black sheep, embodying everything Kim and Barry worked so hard to prevent. So when Lydia named Amber as her maid of honor, it wasn't just about the wedding party. It was about years of distance, years of Mariah fighting to carve out her own path, even if it meant stepping away from her family. Her absence from the role was, in many ways, inevitable. It wasn't that she simply couldn't be there for the wedding, it was that she hadn't been there for a long time, and perhaps more painfully, the family hadn't fully been there for her either. The roots of this go all the way back to the Plath parents. Kim and Barry's ultra-strict household laid the foundation for the rebellion we saw in Mariah, Ethan, and even Micah. The long-standing fights with Kim, the painful standoffs of our faith, independence, and freedom. It all chipped away at Mariah's bond with the rest of the family. Add in her complicated ties with Ethan and Olivia, her brother and sister-in-law who themselves have battled with Kim and Barry, and it becomes clear why Mariah feels caught between worlds. Her absence at Lydia's wedding wasn't about just one weekend in June. It was the echo of years of conflict, heartbreak, and survival. For Mariah, not being maid of honor wasn't a snub to her. It was proof of the distance she's already embraced, a distance she may not be ready or willing to close. Reality TV has a way of turning private wounds into public entertainment, and for the Plath family, that spotlight has only intensified the fractures we now see so clearly. Welcome to Plathville isn't just a documentary of their lives. It's a production. Every camera angle, every confessional, every edit is shaped to maximize drama. And in that process, moments that might have stayed within the family become amplified into defining storylines. What might have been a simple wedding decision, choosing Amber as maid of honor, morphed into a symbol of loyalty, rebellion, and rejection once the cameras framed it that way. Editing plays a massive role in shaping how viewers interpret the Plaths. Producers know when to linger on a tear in Mariah's eye, when to cut to Lydia praying in her room, or when to spotlight Ethan's frustration boiling over. These editorial choices feed narratives about the obedient one, the rebel, or the broken sibling, turning real people into characters in an ongoing family drama. Fans don't just watch, they take sides, argue online, and bring their own experiences into the discussion. And that's exactly what's happened with Lydia's wedding. Online forums, social media threads, and comment sections lit up with debates. Was Lydia snubbing Mariah? Was Mariah even in the emotional space to stand up as maid of honor? Was Amber chosen simply because she was the closest in age and aligned with Lydia's values? Instead of a private choice between sisters, the question became a battleground for fans, each adding fuel to the fire. In some ways, the audience has become a silent participant in the family's story, pressuring each sibling to live up to the role they've been assigned. But beneath the headlines and hashtags lies the emotional toll. For Lydia, being praised for her obedience also means living under constant scrutiny for staying perfect. For Mariah, being branded the rebel often overshadows her very real pain and struggles with identity. Ethan has been painted as the son torn between two families, while Micah has had to navigate his independence with the cameras still watching. What might have been a normal journey of growing up and finding themselves has instead been broadcast, dissected, and replayed endlessly. The result is that every choice, every relationship, every misstep feels bigger than it is, because the world is watching. Reality TV has magnified not just the drama, but the distance, leaving the Plath siblings to live out their most vulnerable moments under a spotlight that never dims. When we step back from the headlines, from the fan debates, and even from the polished edits of reality TV, Lydia's wedding becomes something bigger than just one family moment. It reflects a universal truth. Siblings don't always walk the same path. Some stay close to tradition, honoring the values they were raised with. Others choose independence, carving out a life that looks nothing like what their parents envisioned. And in those choices, families are often left struggling to bridge the gap. Weddings, in theory, are supposed to be times of unity, moments where families come together to celebrate love. But as so many people know, they can just as easily highlight divisions. Seating arrangements, bridal party lineups, even the words exchanged in speeches can reopen old wounds. For the Plaths, Lydia's big day underscored not just her devotion to faith and family tradition, but also the distance that has grown between her and Mariah. What should have been a symbol of togetherness instead became a reminder of how far apart the sisters have drifted. For Lydia, the decision affirmed her role as the steady, obedient daughter, the one who chose continuity over conflict. For Mariah, her absence stood as a marker of independence, but also of pain, isolation, and the cost of rebellion. And for the rest of the Plath family, it raised a pressing question. How much longer can they live with fractures so visible, especially under the relentless gaze of reality TV? Maybe that's why this story resonates beyond just Welcome to Plathville fans. Many of us know the sting of family traditions clashing with our personal choices. We've seen how celebrations meant to unite can reveal divides we'd rather not face. The Plaths may live on screen, but in this moment, their struggles are painfully human. So now we ask you, when you think about Lydia and Mariah, who do you sympathize with more? Do you see Lydia's choice as loyalty to her values, or do you feel Mariah was unfairly pushed aside? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're diving into them as always. Because in the end, this story isn't just about one wedding. It's about love, loyalty, and the crushing weight of public pressure colliding in ways that test even the strongest of family bonds. And that is what makes the Plaths saga both heartbreaking and unforgettable.